Okay, so let's figure out where to start. Wait, hold on. I'm getting a call. Hold on. It's from Ghostface. Ghostface? Yes? Hold on, let me put on speaker.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Not Scream 7. Okay, so, guys, I really, really wanted to like this movie, but man, was it rough. Now, don't get me wrong. I think this movie, compared to a lot of the others, had a lot of strong positives. I mean, there was a lot. I really did like the opening. I thought it was shot really well. I thought it was well written. I thought the acting was really good. The violence was entertaining. It was almost a little bit gorier than before, and there was so much going for it. I mean, what Ghostface did in this movie was just exciting. It was tense. It was on edge of your seat kind of moments. But the third act, man, just sucked. I didn't care for it. I really didn't. I mean, with a Scream movie, you have to have a strong closing. You gotta have a strong opening, likable characters, a lot of action, and then you gotta close it out strong. This one just didn't, and it just sucked because all they needed to do was just one thing. They only needed to do one thing, and they dropped the ball. So let's sort of talk about that. So the opening was interesting, of course. I don't think it was iconic. It wasn't anything that was really too dramatically different than any of the others. It was fine. It was simple. It was Ghostface killing the people in the opening. So I don't know how to rank the opening just because it was just simple. It was fine. It didn't stand out like the first one or like Scream 5 or the second, in my opinion. But I thought this one was fine. I didn't have any issues with it. And then you get past the opening. When it comes to Sidney Prescott, now Sidney Evans, the first annoying thing that is, in hindsight, not anything that actually has to do with the movie, but her husband is Mark. Now, Mark Kincaid, I believe was his name, was the cop from Scream 3. Now, this is Mark Evans, I guess, but some people have pointed out that maybe he could have changed his name. He's still just Mark. They never really answer whether or not this is a recasted Mark Kincaid from before or not. He's just there. So I guess he's not supposed to be. It just would have been nice if they had clarified that, but they didn't touch on it at all. And you're just left to assume this is a new Mark, which is fine because I thought he was a good actor. I thought he did well in this role. So when we move past the opening, Sydney has this sort of strained relationship with her daughter, and Mark is he's a likable guy, supportive right from the get-go. The characters in this movie are just likable. You got Tatum, her daughter, is her boyfriend singing through the window, reminiscent from Scream 1, and it all feels like it's this nostalgia train. But Sydney having this complex layer to her character, being a mother now, she can't connect with her daughter. Her daughter wants to know about her past, and he doesn't want to talk about it. They spent a lot of time in the first third of this movie really developing the character and Tatum's relationship with her boyfriend and her friends. It spent a lot of time. I feel like this movie spent more time developing our core main characters than some of the others. So that was something I really liked about it, because it wasn't just action after action. It wasn't just layered on top of each other. You had breathing room to get to know these characters and figure out who you want to root for, who you don't. So that part I thought was great. It was really paced really well. And then we get Ghostface starts killing some of her friends. And this is where the action picks up because he starts going after them pretty much one by one, and he's always where Tatum is at, but hasn't gone after her yet, or can't find her, or she gets away. There's always some reason. He doesn't come face to face with Tatum, but he's always near her and is always killing someone around her. Now, before his first attack, besides the opening, we learn that when Ghostface calls Sydney, Sydney's calling him out, saying you're just a guy with a voice changer. He FaceTimes Sydney through the computer, kind of force accepts the FaceTime, and we see Matthew Lillard, Stu Macher, with scars on his face as if he has indeed survived. So this is something that the trailers teased. This is something that marketing teased. They put Matthew Lillard, he re-recorded one of his lines for the first one for this new trailer for Scream 7. So all of the marketing is Stu. Everything was Stu. He's back. Matthew Lillard's back. He's doing some voice work. There's just everything Stu. So there's reason to get hyped for this movie. I mean, it's the anniversary from the first one. We might have Stu coming back, and now here he is on screen. So the way it was shot, I mean, it was pretty exciting. It was pretty cool, not gonna lie. He had a strong opening for his reveal. He doesn't have the ghost face persona on, but he is on screen, so we get a sense, yes, Stu is alive and he's back. However, right after this phone call, a lot of the characters start to point out how it could be faked with deepfake or AI and all this modern clutter that we really don't want in movies, especially a slasher that's on the anniversary of where it started years ago that had nothing to do with deepfake and AI and all that. So I was already worried that that was going to play into Stu. So we figure, okay, he's probably alive. Now he's killing. And Sydney is freaking out, believing it is Stu. So as we go through the movie, they go to this psych ward where this guy said, yeah, there was a John Doe, recognized Stu's picture saying there was a John Doe, and he was released recently. And his death certificate, paperwork, can't be found. The coroner had already died a few years ago, so there's no proof that he was actually dead, which characters are also pointing out how that could be faked or staged or lied about. So every part of the story suggesting Stu is alive, there's holes poked into it pretty much constantly by a majority of the characters. So you start to doubt that Stu's really back, and if he's not, then that means all this time, all this advertisement, and him being in the movie is all for nothing if they're just going to fake it, which would be incredibly disappointing and annoying. So after we go through the middle, which is pretty much Ghostface going after people around Tatum and Sydney, as we go toward the third act, since the majority of the middle is just going after characters one by one, we actually get one of the ghost faces ends up getting killed and ran over by a car by none other than Gale Weathers, who also shows up with Chad and Mindy, who are also back. So it was kind of like this legendary entrance scene where a car runs over Ghostface. Who's this? It's Gale herself. So as far as the Scream franchise, a character's entrance, this was probably the best one. I mean, it was shot really well. Like I said, the way this movie was shot was just done so incredibly well. And this is one of the reasons why I was so disappointed by the ending, because there was so much about the movie I loved. And so now we have Gale in the mix, who Gale and Cindy decide to do an interview, which will have Stu call them. They can try and trace the call. So they've done this bit before. So they go live on air, ask Cindy personal questions, they go off air, and then they get a call. And Stu is yet again where Tatum is, which is not where Cindy thought she was. And now Cindy races out the building, doesn't have keys to her car because Gale drove her there and she left without Gale. So now she's just running the streets across town to try to get to this shop where Tatum and her friends are, where this is where Ghostface does a lot more killing of Tatum's friends, where we see Chad and Mindy get stabbed, but they've survived enough at this point. I didn't expect them to die. Chad was stabbed a bunch of times in Scream 6, and he survived. I think of all the survivors in the Scream franchise, he was stabbed the most of all of them still alive. He was stabbed the most. And so I had every reason to believe Chad would still survive, and we don't get those answers immediately. Tatum leaves this shop, and Ghostface is chasing her, and there's another showdown where when she finally circles back to the shop, now there's a second Ghostface. They take her hostage, which is now a first for the franchise. Ghostface doesn't really take people hostage except for the opening of Scream 1 and sort of the end of Scream 2 and the end of Scream 4. So I guess it's been done before, but it wasn't done. It was meant to be nostalgia, sort of. It wasn't done with any creativity, it feels. It was just the plot device to lure Sydney away, or trying to get her to come alone. So when Sydney shows up, alone, of course, but armed, we get a smart Sydney. She sets her gun down, but the shot reveals, as she's, like, the shot is from behind her, so as she bends down, we can see another gun on her belt, so she still has a weapon. Sydney was written extremely well. I think she was the best written character in this movie, and the movie was finally about her, and it was finally giving her nice, really cool moments, which is what we haven't seen from her character in a while. So that was nice to see. That was, I think, the strongest positive about this movie is her, which is how it should be when she's the main character for a franchise. So now we get to the killer reveal, and what sucks is the ghost face that was ran over early on in the movie was just a asylum patient. There's no actual connection to Sydney or Stu or any of the characters. He's just completely random. And so now we see that the person that's has Tatum is one of the people at the psychiatric facility who doesn't explain any connection to Stu or Sydney or anyone else. He's just helper to the third ghost face, who is revealed to be one of Tatum's friends' mother, who has no connection to Stu or Sydney at all whatsoever. So her motive, the bright idea that this movie had, is that she read Sydney's book, gave her inspiration to kill her husband, and that's about all I talked about. They didn't really say why she wanted to kill Sydney. She just said, Sydney's the original, it's time for her to die. Didn't we already go over this with Scream 4? Didn't we already go over this with Scream 5? It was nothing new. So for Scream 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, it was someone related to Sydney. And then for 5 and 6, it was someone connected to Sam and Tara. It all had to do with the main characters. And now it's some lady that read her book. Killer reveal. That's it. And then it didn't last very long. There's a little bit of a chase scene, and Sydney gets a good hit on her, and so does Tatum now. So now she's finally stepped into her own, becoming the survivor that she wants to be, that Sydney didn't want her to have to become, but now it's happening. And they finish off both ghost faces. They're both shot in the head. So that's it. Of course, we get the best scene in the movie. Chad survives yet again after being brutally attacked again, which at this point I'm fine with. I mean, I'm a fan of Chad. I'm glad that he survived. It's almost ridiculous at this point what he can survive, but I'm not complaining anymore. He's one of the more likable characters for this franchise, so I hope they keep him around. So this movie that relies so heavily on the marketing of Stu Macher's return, for him to just be, it was revealed that they used AI to make the videos look like Stu. So it just felt like the most cheap reason to have him in the movie just for nostalgia bait, which is the same thing, I believe. Now, I could be wrong, but if memory serves, I don't exactly remember the trailer editing timing, but we're going to talk about Kung Fu Panda. Why? Here's why. Because Kung Fu Panda 4 showed Tai Lung in the trailer, when in the movie, the shot of Tai Lung in the trailer, that same shot in the movie had scales on. He was the other character. When you're watching the movie, you know he's the other character. But the trailer made it look like he was actually back. Kind of like in this one, they try to make it look like Stu was actually back, but he's not. Now, yes, Kung Fu Panda 4, Tai Lung did kind of come back in the end, but the point is, they rely so heavily on marketing for Tai Lung's return. Like, I think the 4K box for Kung Fu Panda 4 has Tai Lung on the front. They're just heavily advertising he's back, so you gotta watch it because he's back. It feels like the same thing as Scream 7. You gotta watch it because Stu's back, but he's really not. So just being teased like that, it just feels like a kick in the balls. It feels like I've been played for a fool. I mean, I'm a fan of Stu. That's one of the reasons why Scream 1 is my favorite, and I think I can speak for probably, I would assume, a lot of Scream fans that the killer reveal in 1 is why 1 remains the best. So to just be teased like that in this one, for him to just be, yeah, the killers who had nothing to do with Sydney just used AI, I thought they could have come up with something better. So honestly, because of this, the shots and the writing and the action sequences, all this movie had to do is two things. One, it actually be Stu. I don't even care if they killed him 30 seconds later. If it actually was Stu, that would have made the movie for me. Or if he had been cut from this movie altogether, cut from the marketing altogether, and just let this be something else instead of everyone expecting Stu, I think this movie would have been a lot better. So I think the whole tease just left a bad taste in my mouth, and yeah, it was the least interesting killer reveal in all of the Scream movies. It was the least interesting acting, and the least happened after the reveal. I mean, for Scream 4 to be one of my least favorites, there was a story that happened afterward. 6 was one of my least favorites, but there was a lot of good action after the reveal. In 7, they revealed the two ghost faces. One is shot in the head immediately, and the other has a little bit of a chase scene that felt like it lasted a minute. So, I don't know, guys. This was just not my favorite at all. This is my least favorite Scream movie, in fact. So, maybe on a rewatch someday, I might like it a little bit better, even though I'm in no rush to really see it again at the moment. I was just extremely disappointed because Matthew Lillard is such a legendary actor. So the fact that he was in this movie, it felt like a waste of his talent just to tease him into the return of his iconic role, just for him to have been an AI version of a different killer. So that was just severely disappointing, to say nonetheless. But like I said, there are a lot of positives about this movie. If you just turn your brain off in the last third, or for the killer reveal, or just expect it to be disappointing, then I think you're going to enjoy this movie just fine, because the beginning and most of the middle, including the acting and the action sequences, are pretty good. So that's my take on it, guys. Let me know what you think. I've been a fan of this franchise for a little bit now, and if they make Scream 8, which I'm hearing it seems like they want to do a Scream 8, I'll be there for it too. So keep it digging, guys, and I'll see you next time.